Regressor of the Fallen Family, Chapter 50. Town? A large pioneer settlement? Master, what are you talking about? After the Watergate opening ceremony, Hammer was called up immediately as his short vacation ended, and his expression was naturally not a happy one. You're planning to cultivate that vast plain and farm it. How would the peasants living near the castle at both ends go back and forth every day? Even if it's possible, it's a waste of time. We need to create a new village right in the middle of the plain. So you want me to take charge of that? Are you not confident in construction? Well, I haven't heard that dwarves are good at building as well. What are you talking about? We dwarves are best at construction after weapon making. Really? I knew it? Oh, this damn mouth. Hammer, who blurted out in a moment of anger, soon realized what he had said and plopped down in resignation. Hammer looked as pitiful as he could in the hopes of some final sympathy, but his counterpart had no intention of taking pity. The town will be laid out in a cross shape with roads, divided into 4 sections with houses of the same type constructed at regular intervals. The more permanent residents, the better. But for now, the goal is half the population of the territory. Logan smiled, remembering the efficiency of a planned imperial city he had seen in his previous life. We will build several communal wells in each district, create communal toilets for use, and construct a separate sewage system that will dispose of waste outside the town. Logan's orders were very detailed, from the overall form to specific facilities. However, as Logan explained enthusiastically, Hammer could only grind his teeth. Where have you seen such absurd ideas? Ah, Tina? What in the world? Who keeps giving these useless inspirations to the master? I thought you've only lived here. Well, that would have been the people from the Empire of the future, but since that wasn't something he could actually say, he had to casually gloss over it as he had done before. Not exactly, but I've seen it for sure. Ah, damn it! I'm going mad with all this plausible talk. Right? It really seems so. I've seen it. With better sanitation, infectious disease prevention. As he spoke, Logan quickly added with a glance at Hammer's increasingly distorted face. Just prepare the designs for now, and if you build a few wooden houses as a trial, once the mining work is done, I'll give you a long vacation. As long as you want. How about it? Ugh, how many times have I been tricked? Hammer, almost trembling with clenched fists, gave a half-hearted consent, and Logan's bright smile twisted his expression even more. But with that scale, the amount of timber alone will be no joke. Did you consider how to import that much timber? It won't be easy even in Triton. Hammer, deep in thought, launched what he thought was a counterattack. Timber? It's down south, where we don't need processed raw material like a crossbow. Down south? At that, Logan pointed out through the window of MacLine Castle at the lush mountain range below, covered in dense trees. You can't mean the monster forest? Logan nodded nonchalantly at Hammer's incredulous voice. Hammer tried to argue, but knowing his plea would fall on deaf ears. We'll just do the groundwork for now, set up a basic model house, and then slowly start construction with the available timber. We'll get new recruits to cut down that forest in winter for timber supply, so there won't be any issues in the future. You can rest until then, as soon as the mining is over. Hammer could only sigh as it was clear that nothing he would say would be heeded. He. And then join the town construction again? Hey, I promised you a long vacation once the mine is over. The development's almost finished, isn't it? You should be able to take at least a month off. How's that? Perfect plan, right? Ugh. Hammer didn't want to admit it, but even to him, it sounded like a solid plan. What's more, he wasn't a slave, so if he was forced to work against his will, he had no place to complain. MacLine Town. That village will now become the heart of the MacLine territory. It might even become busier than the castle, since half of the territory's population will live there. You'll be creating the future of this territory. So why do I have to do that? The magicians will help you too. You'll do it, right? Give it your best. Magic. Though he lamented, Hammer had no choice but to nod reluctantly, and just 3 weeks later, as expected from Hammer. Logan nodded with satisfaction as he was informed that Hammer had completed the design for the massive pioneer village known as MacLine and the model houses. The news he had been waiting for also arrived at the same time. "Young lord!" Bang! The door to the office opened as if it was about to break, and Dwayne burst in. "What?" "Why?" "Hammer, no. Master Hammer sent a message that mining can now begin in the gold mine." The very moment Dwayne shouted, Logan darted out of the office like the wind. The cornerstone of the family's leap, the source of funds, had finally been completed. Now all the plans can take off. His heartbeat accelerated as his body raced faster and faster. "Ma, my lord." "I'll come too." He couldn't afford to care for the desperate voice echoing from behind. This is a rare gold nugget from the mine. Normally, gold is sparsely distributed among the minerals and requires extraction, but this one has already appeared. As Hammer presented a nail-sized piece of gold, Dwayne's mouth hung open in amazement. Logan, too, with a proud look on his face, patted the tired Hammer on the shoulder. "You've worked hard. You have truly done so much for this territory to come back to life." It was sincere praise, but Hammer responded with nothing but a vacant expression. "Now that the mining operation is set up, I'm taking my break." "Ah, but how much can you mine from now?" Avoiding Hammer's eyes suspiciously, Logan inquired further, but Hammer gave him an answer anyway. "As predicted, we can mine up to 1 ton of gold each month. I can't make an estimation on the reserves yet, but conservatively, it should last at least 10 years. That's my estimation. So now I'm taking my break?" "1 ton!" Then that's once again Logan awkwardly changed the topic. "Hey, master! Hey! What about my vacation?" "Don't avoid my eyes!" Cough! "But there's construction in town to begin with, and more crossbows to make, and knight's weapons too." "Just kill me! Put me to death! People are supposed to have some conscience." "I can't." "I won't! Just kill me!" Flushing red with rage, Hammer threw himself on the floor and started whining like a child. I've seen this scene before. Feeling an odd sense of déjà vu, Logan held his head. There's still so much to do. Logan knew there were endless things for the dwarf Hammer to do, especially with the ongoing preparations for war, but now he really had no more excuses to keep him busy. Maybe I should look for another dwarf in the future. Hammer had already done dozens of times more than originally expected. He really had no choice but to allow him to rest. Not to mention that if things kept going this way, there might be another accidental incident as before. "All right, I'll keep my promise and give you a break. A month is... Wah! Master! Don't look for me. I'll sleep for a month." Before Logan could finish speaking, Hammer screamed in protest. "I was only going to let him rest for 2 weeks. But faced with Hammer's bloodshot eyes and the shadow beneath them, Logan thought he would genuinely draw a sword if he said that. "Well, I have other things to do anyway. I'll set things in motion, and Hammer will have to tidy up when he comes back after a month." As Logan was swallowing his words with dread, Hammer disappeared down the mountain with a speed that made him invisible. He was determined to rest with a will stronger than steel, and his lightning-fast movement reflected it as Logan watched with a snicker. "Wah!" Another shriek suddenly erupted right behind him. What? 100 million gold. What? Can't believe it was true! With 1 ton of gold per month, 1 billion gold would be feasibly possible in a year. Dwayne's triumphant shout came after completing his calculations while squatted down. "Now our territory is saved. We don't have to look at anyone's faces anymore." The exhilaration in Dwayne's eyes was almost maniacal as he shook Logan with all his strength. "That happy about it?" "Of course. Whether it's equipment or food or any problem, we no longer have to worry about anything." Boo-ha-ha-ha! Remembering how overjoyed Dwayne had been just at the news of the gold mine, Logan understood his current intense reaction, but thought it best to cool his enthusiasm before it got out of hand. There's a lot that needs doing. Money isn't the solution to everything. Directly, nonsense! There's nothing that money can't solve. That's only if you're short on cash. Dwayne seemed to be completely beside himself. It looked like normal persuasion wasn't going to work to bring the beguiled administrator back to reality. Logan was left without any other choice but to pull out his last card. "But you know this gold mine isn't owned by the family, it's mine." "Yes? I mean, I own the mine, not the family." "What? What's that?" My lord, you jest." Surely he knew, but maybe played dumb. That's a card to be played. This was a moment when Logan had to remind him very clearly. I received it as a personal reward after the previous reward. You forgot? Is that the reward you received? I don't remember. Why joke on such a fine day? Looking at his expression, Logan thought he might really not remember, and so he pushed forward indisputable evidence. It's true. Here are the documents. Pulling out a piece of paper from his chest pocket, Dwayne's eyes began to find focus as he looked at the flapping document. Ah, ah, ah. Coming out of his happy daydream, tears began to form in Dwayne's now lucid eyes. Say it isn't so. My lord, you're not planning to manage all that wealth all by yourself, right? Surely not. I wouldn't do that. It'll be used for the benefit of the family. He felt like joking a bit, but if he did, he feared he might actually see Dwayne bawl. True? You're sure? Yes, but at my discretion. Dwayne's returning smile complicated at Logan's words. Then, at least 3% will go to the family as tax, before he could appease the deeply loyal finance administrator to keep him from falling into despair. Ah, whatever. As you wish, my lord. Suddenly content with everything, Dwayne simply nodded. Huh? If it was that damn project in the mining, everything has gone well so far. After all, there's never been anything that's gone worse when you insisted, my lord. I trust you. Logan couldn't feel entirely good, even at his words. Clayton and now Dwayne. They were all excessively positive about him. It felt somewhat discomforting that they had such a heightened and perhaps unrealistic view of him. Well, a good thing's a good thing, I guess. So he took the current positive mood to push his luck a bit. All right, then. With the mine construction successfully completed, continue with the Pioneer Town project. As soon as Hammer returns from his break, we can drive it forward. Yes, I'll prepare. Booking hard labor, expected to continue through winter, even before his top talent's vacation was over. We'll give priority to those who are willing to live there for the town cultivation rights. The announcement's ready, right? Yes. I'll get on it right away. He forced through the settlement rights details without a single conversation with his father or the retainers. We'll start recruiting soldiers to begin training around winter. Charging on, he even laid out plans to supplement not just the main force, but regular troops as well. Yes, I am aware. Ah, really? Logan was surprised by Dwayne's prompt responses, only to be hit by his sharp gaze. What's with that all of a sudden? Why are you so obedient all of a sudden? What do you mean? Why are you complying so easily now? Because it's worth doing. Dwayne's eyes gleamed with resolve, but it nevertheless unsettled Logan. Why is this making me uneasy? Despite his concern, since Dwayne was responding openly, Logan felt no need to further challenge him. He moved on with the conversation. And needless to say, we must keep this a secret, understood? Of course. If Bifrost, Kyle, or the Border Lords find out, it will be chaos. Right. Over time, rumors will spread, but the later, the better. Once the gold began to come in earnest, even the miners, who had been cluelessly digging up ore until now, would realize they were working in a gold mine. Given that there were only 4 known gold mines in the kingdom, the sudden appearance of a 5th would be a momentous event, and it would be impossible to silence thousands of mouths. Yes, I'll take care of it. It's obvious. Not adjusting to it. Logan forced a smile as he watched Dwayne's unexpectedly agreeable attitude. All right, let's just start everything and see how it goes. Even if his father finished his training and came back to oppose it, by the time he did, it would be too late. The dice had been rolled. Over the past 3 months, Logan's daring as the Lord Substitute had grown boundless. But a week later, my father is out of meditation. In the midst of planning and preparing announcements, Logan might have to vacate his acting lord position sooner than expected. He couldn't help but frown. Yes, after tidying up, he'll head to the office. He wishes to receive a report from you personally, young lord. Ah, if only he had stayed in meditation for another week. What worries you? Would have been better if he returned after the soldier recruitment and announcement of the start of the pioneering town and tax reductions. You're concerned he'll oppose it? Isn't that obvious? He'll say it was all unnecessary. Huh. Why do you look at me like that? Oh, it's nothing. We'll wait and see. Having gotten used to Dwayne's odd reactions following the successful dam and mine constructions, Logan ignored it. His father's reaction was more troubling. I'll just have to insist. The current response from the territory's citizens is also good. For the past 3 months, the fact that Logan took on the role of acting lord in the absence of the head of the household has not been disclosed to the outside world. It wasn't deliberately kept secret, but the fact that it has quietly passed without much attention suggests that there were no significant issues. While he did provide food in exchange rather than enforced conscription, even the labor imposed on the residents of the territory did not receive criticism within the territory. Above all, being the protagonist of the history that brought water to the wasteland, he enjoyed absolute support from the residents of the two castles in the current situation. Therefore, there was no reason to hesitate in adhering to his intentions. Yes, let's face this challenge head on. Logan steeled his resolve. Regressor of the Fallen Family, Chapter 51. The office door opened and Patrick offered a quiet greeting. It's been a while, Logan. The intense gaze shining through his slightly longer red hair felt even heavier than before. He's become stronger. Though Logan had expected it, Logan never really thought Patrick's realm would actually ascend. The genius knight of 20 years ago had finally overcome a decade of stagnation to emerge as a top-grade knight. This increases our chances of victory. A slight smile crept onto Logan's lips. The sharpest blade of the MacLine family had been honed even finer. He would serve as a sturdy shield for the still lacking himself, and for Ronyan and Victor, the future aura users, until they matured. He couldn't help but let out a satisfied laugh. Congratulations on your achievement. Indeed, it's all thanks to you, my son. What? You surely jest? Dwayne, who had failed to sense Patrick's newfound strength, jumped in surprise, prompting Patrick to laugh gently in response. I feel I can be a more reliable head of the family now. You've worked hard, Dwayne. A voice and smile now showed more ease than before. Filled with emotion, Dwayne looked to his lord with a moved expression. Congratulations, sir. You finally reaped the rewards of your training after neglecting all else for so long. It's a relief my struggles over the past years weren't in vain. Sincere congratulations, sir. It was unclear whether the statement was a compliment or a rebuke, but Dwayne's genuinely joyful expression made it difficult to say anything. Patrick managed an awkward smile, nodding slightly, then changed the subject. Has anything happened over the past 3 months? If there's anything I need to know? Thunk. Before he could finish speaking, a massive pile of documents was dumped on the desk. As Patrick stared dumbfounded at the mountain of papers, young Lord Logan has been rather busy. Please review and decide. Dwayne welcomed the real Lord's return with a bright smile. And 3 hours later, distributing food to the people, employing them in the construction of a dam or something, developing a gold mine, and fertile land in the wasteland stretching. Chuckles. Patrick gazed at Logan with an incredulous laugh. Is all this true? Patrick, skeptical to the core, asked, and Logan's response was succinct. Yes. Let's go see, and judge for ourselves. From Patrick's perspective, it was as if the world had turned upside down in 3 months, so courtroom skepticism was only natural. Logan followed his father silently, smiling. In Patrick's memory, the western outer gate of MacLine Castle led only to a parched wasteland with hardly a blade of grass. But now, just 3 months later, the scenery unfolding was entirely different. Irrigation canals in this wasteland? This is truly the sight of canals laid out every 300 meters, already nurturing patches of green, was a dream come true. And there, among the 11 mages and thousands of citizens no longer in a wasteland, were small wooden buildings and a large earthen wall, captivating Patrick's gaze. We're building a large village for the people who will till the plains. It will be dozens of times larger than a small village. It shall be called MacLine Town. Ha! As awe-inspiring progress unfolded before him, Patrick was at a loss for words. By next spring, before the weeds take hold, we'll begin tilling for farming. We might even see greater yields than the MacLine Plains our ancestors lost. Is that so? But will the people readily move to the new homes? Yes. Those living in the town will be given priority, in land cultivation. Plus, their new homes will be much better than the thatched ones most live in now. Right, I see. Though it was his own question, Patrick seemed more distracted than focused on the answer. He bustled about, seemingly forgetting his dignity. Let's see that dam. How did such a miracle? Patrick's voice trembled with the question. Setting aside explanations for the future, Logan quietly led his father as requested. Witnessing the dam and sluice, Patrick marveled, unable to conceal his astonishment. After also visiting the mine and confirming the gold ore, he kept patting Logan on the shoulder in admiration. With this, even recruiting soldiers should be effortless. As Logan indulged in the thought of easygoing days ahead, he watched his father with a pleased smile. Indeed, you surpass me. That is so. Aha, well, if we're only considering recent achievements, no, you're right. Your deeds over 3 months surpass my 30 years of effort. I am truly blessed with a fine son. Thank you, really. Heartfelt words spilled from a father who had never imagined saying such things. Logan's heart swelled, but then a strange twist followed. Now that you're handling the lordship's duties, I will devote myself to training the knights thoroughly. Excuse me? What are you planning now? Let's have breakfast together tomorrow. We have much to discuss. Before a bewildered Logan could respond, Patrick turned his back with a bright smile. There's much I want to discuss, too. Watching his father return, free of burdens, Logan felt unable to hold him back. The next morning, at a table where the MacLine family gathered for the first time in a while, Patrick made an explosive declaration. I designate Logan as my successor, and henceforth he will handle most of the lordship duties. Cough! What? Hoping for a change of heart overnight was futile. Logan, who had wished his words were a mere test, nearly choked on his meat. So you know. And assist Logan in smoothly fulfilling his role. Yes. Even the supposed adversary agreed rather palely. Wait, why are you giving in so readily this time? Logan, unable to believe it, looked at Marianne with incredulous eyes. If it's my brother, I trust he will excel. His brother, who he thought had grown somewhat dependable, added fuel to the fire. You wretch, it's supposed to be your position! Logan inwardly screamed in dismay, his eyebrows quivering. He had almost wrapped up his official duties, so freedom to move about seemed more appealing. Going forward, I will focus on enhancing our military strength by training the knights. Father, please reconsider. Logan, under your leadership, I hope MacLine regains its past glory. Unable to finish his sentence, Logan gaped as Patrick solemnly concluded the matter. I understand it's a burden. If you understand, please reconsider. However, it's a duty we must fulfill eventually. But why now? And I trust you will perform excellently. After breakfast, during a requested private conversation, Logan tried to persuade his father again, but only reaffirmed his unwavering determination. This stubbornness, Logan sighed heavily, a headache brewing. I know you have no attachment to this position. Patrick spoke calmly, surprising Logan. It only just occurred to me. Perhaps you view the family as a burden you must shoulder. Not a burden, but we have greatly benefited from you. Now it's time to reap the benefits of a family that has grown or will grow, thanks to you. I prefer to think I'm giving you not a burden but a right. Taken aback by the heartfelt conversation and warmth in those eyes, Logan wavered. I've realized something for sure during my training. Yes, that's why you've reached the top grade. Logan nodded silently. I've gotten old. Excuse me? To whatever extent I could manage it, the swordsmanship of your sword spirit technique is something I got the hang of. But that secret art you mentioned is beyond me. An unexpected continuation followed. Perhaps had I learned it when I was young, just awakening to the Force, it might have been possible. But with my Force now marked by time, forming what was at crystallization seems impossible. And even if I forced it, it would likely just strain my heart. So I had no choice but to give up. Sidestepping resentment, at that moment, Logan no longer had the heart to object. Though still slightly uneasy, he decided to take it easy. I'll just delegate to Dwayne whenever I need a break. He'd still need to carve out personal training time, even if it meant pushing tasks onto Dwayne during work hours. Or maybe let Dwayne handle things all the time. Unbeknownst to Logan, a large retainer nearby shuddered with an inexplicable chill. Logan calmed himself with a sigh. Yes, I understand. Squeak. Leaving with his contented father's smile behind him, Logan chewed over his mixed feelings. Before long, he ran into someone waiting for him. Mother? Logan, may I speak with you? Startled by the unfamiliar formal address, Logan couldn't refuse her request. He, too, had questions. Why? Did you stay quiet, Countier? Oh, what could I have done? Does the wife of a traitorous house have a right to any say in the family's affairs? Her tone was harsher with self-reproach, and Logan struggled to respond. She seemed slightly more at ease than in the aftermath of the war, but the paleness of her complexion revealed she was not well in spirits. The achievements you've shown are enough to warrant succession. My only wish now is for Ranyan's well-being. Indeed, it has always been. It's why I clashed with you. I'm sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. It is I who should apologize. Really? You've apologized to me before. Sadly, I couldn't accept it. I was petty, and I hope you can forgive my narrow-mindedness. Another unexpected confession left Logan speechless. You've been teaching Ranyan swordsmanship, I hear. Yes? Yuri. Fortunately, the prodigy Ranyan created a force core within a week and was already practicing the first move, Blue Wave Slash. Though not manifesting extreme sensations or physical changes like Logan, the boy was refreshingly eager in his training. Caught in an awkward moment, Logan found refuge in this perfect topic. Ranyan is a genius, so he's quickly improving his skills. To think it's been years since I've seen the child so bright. The conversation veered in an unexpected direction, making Logan tense up. I hope you will continue to look after Ranyan, the younger brother. The last words left behind by his stepmother as she turned away brought back faint memories. The baby who'd stopped crying once held by him, as if by magic. The newborn smiling with tiny wriggling fists. That image, alongside a younger, brighter-faced, black-haired beauty, opened her mouth to chuckle. Our son seems to like his brother more than me. Heh. Mother, I promise to always protect my brother. Good, Logan. Please, look after your brother. A time of peace. Memories he had tainted with his dreadful jealousy. Squeeze. Embarrassment clenched his fist tight. Now I can start anew. Now he had the chance to reverse it all, grateful for this second chance at life. Unconsciously, Logan found himself shouting loudly at the backs of his departing stepmother, Parents do not speak formally to their children. Her silhouette seemed to pause for a moment. Going forward as before, please speak freely to me, mother. It wasn't a lengthy apology, but those words resonated deeply, from the heart. The lady, with her head lowered, quietly shed tears, and the gentleman inside smiled softly upon hearing his son's voice. With his face flushed, Logan quickly walked away, carrying the weight of emotions and future responsibilities.
Regressor of the Fallen Family, Chapter 52. The Lord himself will impart intermediate swordsmanship techniques. The knights of the MacLine family had gathered at the training ground from County Dawn after hearing the unbelievable news the day before. Did our family even have intermediate-level swordsmanship to pass on? Maybe it's just the household head imparting some tips? We've already been given plenty of advice on that, if that's all there is to it. Oh, come on, he's not one to make empty promises. As the murmurs among the knights grew louder, a familiar middle-aged face slowly entered the training ground from the corner. As soon as they noticed him, all the knights bowed their heads simultaneously. Greetings, my lord. Greetings, my lord. Despite their respectful and polite greetings, the expression on Patriarch Patrick entering the grounds was not a pleasant one. Truly split into two, aren't we? Since when did our knight order become a pair of rivals? Patrick voiced his disbelief, and all the knights flinched at the same time. Indeed, the knights were currently divided into two groups, one with 41 members, and the other with 32 standing arrayed as if they were from opposing nations. One was made of knights originally from the MacLine family, while the other consisted of knights who had defected from Teslan. While it's understandable that there's some tension, given that you once fought each other to the death, I thought it would improve gradually, given the knight's code of honor. Instead, tisk. His tone conveyed his frustration, but his presence was gradually becoming more commanding. The red-haired, red-eyed, middle-aged man stood there, and the dawn light behind him seemed to bleed out in a crimson hue at that moment. During my silence, absurd rumors have reached my ears. Clique-forming, laziness, it's disappointing to believe they might be true. The knights could only sweat nervously at each encounter with the Lord's discontented eyes, while Patrick's presence continued to rise. Filled with complacency, while I train relentlessly in the pursuit of strength and my son tirelessly manages the estate. While the Lord's steady approach seemed relaxed, the pressure felt heavier than ever. To think that knights, sworn protectors of the estate, are engaging in petty brawls like children. I've been too negligent, have I? Yes, it's my fault. Isn't it? As Patrick's imposing aura pressed down upon the entire order, Heinkel, standing in front at the time, instinctively knew that their lord had grown stronger still. Instead of reveling in the breakthrough from decades of stagnation, they all felt increasingly tense. It's not so. The knights, sensing the increasingly hostile atmosphere, responded in unison, shaking their heads vigorously. No, it's indeed my fault. Hence I've decided to pay a bit more attention from now on. All right? Certainly. Good. So first of all, gulp. As the knights tensed up, gazing at their lord, a 2-meter-long red light beam erupted from the wooden sword Patrick had picked up. Ah! What is that? Even the most skeptical knights widened their eyes as they clearly witnessed their lord reaching the pinnacle of mastery. Swordsmanship is best learned with the body. Come forth, one by one. But to them at that moment, this was nothing but a calamity. Watching the downcast expressions of his knights, Patrick's face grew colder. Rolling in the mud will keep them from entertaining any foolish thoughts. To leave behind a worthy knight order for his son, he was prepared to go through any hardship. Awakening from meditation and finishing his morning training, Logan headed to his office. On the way, he encountered Dwayne and immediately addressed him, bypassing pleasantries. Have you posted the recruitment notice for soldiers? Yes. We'll begin recruiting at both fortresses with the onset of winter. Ferran, who's in charge of the soldiers, is quite agitated by the sudden news of reinforcements, but we have plenty of money. Something about Dwayne's words didn't quite add up, causing Logan to clear his throat. Cough. Money is money and work needs people. Help out where you can. What's there to worry about when there's ample money? He'll manage on his own. Dwayne's bright smile suggested he had no concerns. This man has certainly changed. Though Logan internally sighed, he felt no urge to do anything about it. Well, Father will soon take over the regular troops training as well. Wasn't Patriarch planned to handle the knights' training? Soldiers are, broadly speaking, knight in training. Who knows if more awakened will emerge under his tutelage? Placing talent in the appropriate roles was key to estate management. Logan intended to keep his father busy, ensuring no regret for relinquishing authority too soon. Well, please proceed as you wish. Fortunately, Dwayne, now seemingly an absolute yes-man, posed no objections. Have all the vassals completed their work and returned home? We'll need to gather them again in about a month, but let them rest well before that. Are you referring to the village construction? That's already been arranged. The vassals are responding well. The response is good? Even though they should be resting during the onset of winter? That's the impact the young lord has made. I see. While Logan was yet to adapt to this situation, he decided to accept it, considering it to be a good thing. They will also be provided food. Besides, it's their own homes they'll be building. In hindsight, Dwayne's reasoning did seem logical. And when we recruit soldiers... Ah! Suddenly, a piercing scream swallowed Logan's words, coming from a distance. The agonizing cry drew their attention. Sounds like it came from the training ground. It does. Isn't that where the night training is taking place now? Bang. Save me! Lord, but please. Ron, snap out of it. Open your eyes. Approaching the training ground, they could hear even more distinct screams of distress. Both men could hardly mask their bewilderment. Did night training always sound like that? Remembering the absurd horseback training, Logan tried to reason. It shouldn't be. The dreadful wailing wasn't typical. Well, it must be a new training plan by Father. He must be quite determined. It was unexpected, but Logan's thoughts went no further. Just today, I've been put in charge of training the soldiers. Ah. Leave all other matters to Logan. You're training solely with me for a while. The knights learned inadvertently that one of their most essential duties had been entrusted to them on the spot. Well, I'm in charge of recruiting soldiers anyway. For Logan, raising the level of the soldiers was not a bad turn of events. But first, there was something else to handle. Now, why is young Lord Logan acting like this? Lately, it's almost like a dictatorship. Lately, these complaints had been frequently lodged with Dwayne. But young Lord must have his reasons. Why bother to question it? Now that the budget's increased, you're getting ahead of yourself? Where do you think that budget comes from? Eh? If Logan commands, you should do it. No questions asked. Dwayne no longer paid attention to the concerns of his subordinates, who asked why they needed to save money when there was an abundance. Dwayne, sir? Dwayne's eyes reflected the realization that he was free to sign paperwork without worrying about the budget for the first time in his 20-year management career. 20 years in management, and I never knew how happy it could be to sign off on something without budget concerns. And he did not want anything to jeopardize that happiness. Are you going to spend 10 million gold on gold bars? For what reason? What are you planning to do? However, Dwayne seemed to see a vision where the money that brought him joy was dissipating like mist. Next month, I'll pay by ship, don't worry. Though it sounded like something a con artist would say, the man spouting those words controlled the finances. But still, why do we need such an absurd expenditure? I'm buying mithril, quite a lot of it. What? Mithril. What are you buying? I'm buying mithril, about 100 kilograms. Why in the world? Dwayne's scream almost sounded like a shriek. Mithril, the metal known as the silver of gods, is a rare magical ore that naturally contained magical power. It was significantly stronger than refined steel 10 times so and weighed only a third. It was usually found in small quantities within iron, gold, or silver mines, and was valued at 1,000 times the weight of gold. So Dwayne had no choice but to be utterly flabbergasted by such news. What are you going to do with 100 kilograms of mithril? As always, Logan was not one to entertain counter-arguments. Enough with why. Aren't you tired of it? What? If I were you, I would have stopped out of sheer exhaustion. Have I ever been wrong in my decisions? Well, no, but the undeniable reality created by his track record forcefully quelled Dwayne's objections. He had much to say but couldn't voice his objections. Seeing Dwayne in pain, Logan added an explanation. I'm planning to craft some weapons for the knights. What? Mithril weapons? That is utterly reckless. Mithril isn't reckless. I'm not giving them pure mithril artifacts. Even if they buy that much, considering the number of knights, mithril alloy is the best option. Ugh, the gold mine has totally ruined your concept of money. Observing the despondent Dwayne, Logan comforted him further. The knights have been working for lower pay than those in other territories. Isn't it time they received what they deserve? But is mithril weaponry necessary for that? We have the money, and we have dwarves. What else is there to worry about? That level of spending with a month's revenue seems reasonable. Reasonable, Extravagance can become a habit. If this outrageous spending was considered reasonable, it could lead to a precedent of further similar occurrences. In Dwayne's imagination, the bright future he had envisioned was darkening in real time. I need to stop this. But I can't. Nonetheless, the initiator of this extravagance had, true to his name, proven everything through accomplishments. Moreover, the gold mine was technically his own property, so there was no right to object. I've already decided. Keep that in mind. If there's an urgent need for money, put it on hold for a bit. Leaving behind that declaration, Logan departed. Having made up his mind, he could no longer be stopped by anyone. Thump. Patriarch, you gave up control too quickly. Sob. As the door closed, leaving Dwayne alone, the administrative officer could do nothing but mourn where no one else could hear. Certain reinforcements to the knight's prowess, upgrading the quality of armaments. To some, it seemed nothing less than a capricious waste, but to Logan, it was just another necessary task. He would have liked to give them artifacts directly, but even with a gold mine, outfitting an entire knight force with pure mithril artifacts was impossible. For a knight order mostly of average knights, pure mithril weaponry would be too light and wasteful. After consideration, this was the most rational choice. Just possessing weapons made of mithril alloy could be expected to enhance their combat effectiveness by a minimum of 10% and up to 20%. Maybe I should craft my own sword out of pure mithril. The thought alone brought a contented smile to his face. Despite being a knight with no lack of ambition for a splendid weapon, he had never even laid eyes on mithril alloy weaponry in his previous life. Now he felt that a little greed was permissible. But it's impossible. Philip's firm statement brutally crushed those hopeful expectations. Chapter 53. Why? Why not? Mithril can't be bought simply with money, although its monetary value is, as you mentioned, its scarcity means. Are you saying it can't be bought because it's not available? He had thought money could solve most issues. If we must be specific, then yes, that's the case. 100 kilos? Such a massive purchase requires not just money, but also power. In his past life as Logan, who had been a mercenary barely able to even glimpse mithril, this was something he couldn't have known. Huh? Power? Logan was flustered by the sudden realistic obstacle. But soon enough he came up with a solution. The sword sage should have enough power, right? What? But will he personally intervene for just a transaction? Philip expressed doubt, but Logan believed his relationship with the sword sage was more than just a transaction. He couldn't explain it in detail to Philip, but it was clear that the sword sage held more than just a buyer-seller relationship with him. There's no harm in trying. I've got to talk to him. I'm worried it might ruin the trust you've built for nothing. Trust that's broken with one request isn't worth much. I just have to ask. Despite Philip's worried expression, Logan immediately entered different coordinates into the communication device. He had never used these coordinates since he got them, and while he was worried, thankfully the connection was made quickly. This is the residence of Duke Felix Esperanza. Connection coordinate. MacLine, please hold on a moment. Where is this? Anyone familiar? Some country? Although he heard some displeased remarks, the coordinates seemed accurate. Then, about 30 minutes later, did the Duke arrive already? Damn it. Is there someone important in this backwater place? Hey, the communication device is still on. Ah, I messed up. My apologies. The Duke will be here soon. After the commotion over the communication device, a familiar face appeared, followed by a voice he knew well. It's been a while, Logan. Did everything go well since we last met, my lord? Yes, except for my pupil, who didn't send even one message. The sword sage seemed almost pettily upset. Ha ha. How could I dare to send personal news to you, my lord? I know my place. Logan's smooth smile didn't waver, regardless of the faint guilt now evident. You always did have a way with words. Well, your timing is perfect. I was thinking of thanking you, actually. Those unexpected words rang in Logan's ears. What? Thanks for what? What had he done unknowingly? Or was it a disguised threat for not contacting sooner? Duchess Esperanza is 3 months pregnant. It's been 3 months and my hope has been fulfilled. The Duke's radiant expression blew away all of Logan's concerns. Gosh, congratulations, my lord. Yes, thank you. It's all thanks to you. How could it be thanks to me, my lord? Surely it was your own effort. Logan nearly blurted out too much and just barely held his tongue in time. Ahem, surely? It's a blessing from above. Ha ha ha. You still speak so formally. Indeed, it's a blessing and my own effort. But first and foremost, it's thanks to you. I'm truly grateful. Ah, ha ha. Without guile or calculation, the sword sage expressed genuine joy and gratitude, and a natural smile spread across Logan's face. I'm glad my timing was good when contacting you. Yes, if you hadn't, I would have come rushing over to see if you mastered the overbearing sword technique and whether you're ready for the next lessons. Ha ha. Even the thought is an honor. Cough, what did you just say? Why, do you object? Should I just forget about it? No, not at all. If that's the case, I'd be grateful. Logan quickly declined, startled by the unexpected offer. That's the spirit. Once the child is born, visit the capital again. My wife also wants to extend her personal gratitude. I'll throw a lavish party for you. Ha ha, there's really no need for a party. Your words are more than enough. Then should I not bother teaching you any more? Logan's refusal promptly disappeared at that remark. What party? What's the dress code? I'll follow whatever you wish, as long as it's not a skirt. Ha 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 ha, right, that's more like you. What is this like me you speak of? Say. It's not bad news, but it's complicating at this moment. He unintentionally connected on a trivial matter, only to be caught up in an important event. Ah, my lord, before we speak of the party, might I inquire about acquiring some mithril? Logan almost forgot his essential reason for calling, swept up by the Duke's sudden announcement. Mithril, you're rich enough. Just buy it. Well, I need about 100 kilo. 100 kilo, not 100 grams? Yes, that's why I'm contacting you. So you need power. Thankfully, the sword sage understood his request immediately. You've made so much money? Ha ha. That medicine must have indeed been something. Although there was a slight misunderstanding, Logan did not feel the need to correct it and just brushed it off with a laugh. All right, I assume you have money. What do you need all that mithril for? I want to provide mithril alloy armor for the knights who have worked hard. For regular knights? Mithril armor? Yes. Ha 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 ha. I underestimated your generosity. Excuse me? Well then, I like it. You're worth investing in. Logan was perplexed by his growing misunderstanding. I'll step in. Only need to help your subordinate in the capital? As the awaited words fell, Logan instinctively bowed deeply. Thank you, my lord. Oh, please, it's nothing difficult. Just be sure to attend the party when my child is born, and by then, perhaps refer to me as your teacher. Let's keep in contact more often. Yes? Then contact me again once the deal is done. Crackle. As the communication ended with the Duke looking slightly embarrassed, Logan was left with a dumbfounded expression. It was only after a while that he clenched his fists and turned around, and then, whoa. In a space where no one could hear him, he let out a cry of joy. To be the disciple of the sword sage? Good, good. He had merely planned to make a small request based on a past connection, but he found himself holding a golden lifeline. Unable to hide his elation, Logan's heart soared. Once Hammer finishes with the crossbow and the town's affairs, I'll have to hand over the mithril to him. He nearly rushed to meet Hammer in his excitement, but eventually restrained himself. Let's honor his holiday. He remembered the greater efficiency when Hammer returned from a brief rest last time. Not all people could run continuously like himself. Hence, he decided to simply keep the future task in mind. How benevolent an employer I am. Logan felt a sense of pride, having grown a step further. Of course, he was unaware of the nightmare that woke the sleeping dwarf and that salt was being spread and spit on outside the lodging. To re-enlist as a soldier, you say? There was reason for Kai's skepticism. At a time when the contract period for Logan's mercenaries, hired in preparation for the war with Teslan, was coming to an end, the employer proposed something unusual. Yes? I'll appoint you as an exclusive training instructor with a knight's treatment. Any other who desires will be hired as regular soldiers. The others were merely C-rank mercenaries. Considering this, the offer was extraordinary, which made it even more. These men won't accept it. Their monthly wages will be slashed. But it's steady work. I wonder. since it's different from a long-term contract. Surely some desire the independence of a mercenary life. You too? I'd be content. Being treated like a knight and instructing seems to suit me. Besides, I wish to witness the growth of this family. At that response, Logan's smile broadened. And you're not eyeing potential spoils afterward? Well, maybe a little. That's fine. As long as I can secure you, I can handle the others with a 2-year contract or so. And if anyone refuses, they refuse. You know why? Indeed. The reason was singular, the repeating crossbow. The design would eventually spread, but not yet. Though some wanted to end their contract within a year, Logan had no intention of letting them go. Even if there are interested parties already, like the Wolves, they'll be doubtful after just one battle. However, once the Civil War begins and the MacLine family achieves another success, the situation will change completely. Spies may infiltrate, theft or losses in battle may occur. Not everything can be prevented. At the latest, the crossbow would inevitably become widespread by the end of next year. Therefore, the intent was to strictly control it until then. There will be backlash. Suppress it. That should be possible for you, but still, should they still wish to leave after that time, I have no objection. Really? Yes. Kai's emerald eyes bore into Logan with suspicion, but Logan did not avert his gaze. You're sincere. I'm always sincere. This isn't preparation for war within 2 years. At Kai's cautious inquiry, Logan let out a brief laugh. I'm not a warmonger. It's simply that when the time comes, he must be ready to wage war. You have my obedience. Unable to decipher the intentions behind Logan's smile, Kai bowed again. Let's start with soldier training then. Yes. Recruitment of about 1,000 training soldiers is planned, and along with the existing soldiers, basic martial arts and crossbow cavalry training will all be conducted. Yes. The first task handed to the official training instructor was even more perplexing than Kai could have imagined. Soldier recruitment notice. Eligibility. Males aged 16 to 20. Simple tests conducted at MacLine and Teslin castles. The so-called Miracle of the Wasteland had greatly bolstered trust in Logan and the MacLine family. However, it hadn't immediately solved their subsistence issues. Concerned about how long the food distribution could continue and being dubious about the promise to carry on until next year, the majority of people with children of suitable age wished for them to enlist as soldiers. Moreover, Rick's son from the East Village, Ram, he's 16 this year. What 16? He barely looks 13. Pan's son from the West Village, Raum, he's 16 this year. Hey, he's only 15. Don't you remember the household survey during food distribution? What's gotten into these people? Parents were even trying to trick their way into getting their children into the recruitment by lying about their ages. Do we really need to recruit so many? If we just follow tradition and recruit around 10 times the number of knights, that would be enough for now. I've got this. Despite Dwayne's persistent nagging, increasing troop numbers was an essential task Logan was committed to despite the consequences. He would have preferred not to limit the recruiting. If it weren't for the kingdom's backward thinking, I'd recruit women without discrimination. If we did that now, in our kingdom. He shuddered at the thought of the immense backlash such an action would generate. The local resistance could somehow be quelled, yet the severe backlash from other nobles in the kingdom, whom they would need to confront and conquer eventually, was unmanageable. The empire had many female knights. Regretting the outdated patriarchal culture of his current nation, he sighed. Unless we conquer the entire kingdom. No, still problematic. Logan shook his head to dismiss the impractical thoughts. Anyway, the number of soldiers isn't what matters. It's about finding those with the potential to become knights. The current enlistment was about planning for the distant future. Merely having a large number of soldiers wasn't very beneficial. They would only serve as auxiliaries. Even assuming crossbows were distributed to every soldier, an additional 1,000 would suffice. Moreover, with less than a year left until Civil War, anything more was overly ambitious. even in this recruitment alone. Over 2,000 have flocked. More than 1,000 are just from MacLine Castle. The administration is overwhelmed by the numbers. All the knights claim they have the authority to recruit for their own ranks. They even want to go to Teslan. Amidst the advisor's individual concerns, Logan raised his hand to silence them. Instruct the knights to properly train themselves. I'll start with MacLine Castle, and Dwayne, Ferran, and Rugal, you three will join me. Why must I? Why should I do it alone? It was supposed to be the knights' duty, and they were eager, yet why involve the administrators? The disapproving glares from those selected met Logan squarely, but he was unfazed. New standards must replace old perceptions. Traditional knights won't work. That's why establishing clear criteria from the start was critical. Are all soldiers currently considered knight trainees? Yes, although some have given up, regulations still. Exclude those who gave up, but from the new soldiers, select those with talent or guts and group them separately. Create a knight trainee unit. Excuse me? What about the others? Huh? Logan did not pay heed to the concerns of his vassals. Establishing a fresh batch of soldiers with a new perspective was vital. Despite the confusion this new direction might cause, the importance of upending old customs in favor of rigorous new standards was not lost on him. I'll explain the detailed situation separately. Just remember two things. Create a reserve army and personally select those who are worthy of becoming knight trainees. With the Lord's permission, who am I? As you wish, please proceed. Watching Dwayne sigh, Logan smiled. Chapter 54. The elite troops supporting the knightly order were essentially aspiring knights, otherwise known as knight trainees. Tasked with undergoing the rigorous training required to become a knight, they simultaneously assumed the roles of soldiers responsible for the peace and security of their territories. Not just in MacLine, but in most territories, adolescent boys on the cusp of adulthood were tested for their physical abilities. Among them, only those who surpassed a certain standard and boasted remarkable strength were recruited and trained as soldiers. The grueling training was not merely a test of human limits, but also aimed to nurture Force users. Among the selected soldiers, those with talent would awaken to the Force during their training and become knights. Of course, the majority would abandon the path of knighthood and remain common soldiers, but even then they became a force to be reckoned with, vastly surpassing average conscripts in combat power. Enduring the harsh training to become a knight certainly requires stamina. That's what everyone thought. In fact, most knights were chosen through this method and only awakened to the Force after enduring many years of demanding training. There were also those who came from traditional knightly or noble families, awakening their Force from encounty age through training within their households. Without any special secrets, these individuals didn't necessarily have a higher chance of awakening to the Force. This in itself was evidence that the existing theories were flawed, but at the time, such awareness was not common among the people. Family vacation packages. However, even at this time, the Empire was experimenting with a new theory. Superior strength and Force awakening are distinct matters. Sensitivity might be more important, were the thoughts of the time. There will surely be opposition within the Empire. Research conducted by the Imperial Magic Tower over many years had led to this realization. They had collected data on individuals who had undergone even more rigorous training but failed to awaken to the Force, and based on this data, formulated their theory. The Empire accepted it as official doctrine and changed the entire process of recruiting regular soldiers. As a result of focusing on recruiting children with exceptional senses and reflexes to serve as regular troops, the Empire would, after 9 years, boast an overwhelming force of 50,000 knights in the impending war, crushing the neighboring nations with sheer might. Naturally, the Empire's standards became known throughout the world thereafter. Just looking at Ranyan or Victor makes it clear that selecting soldiers based solely on physical strength is foolish. However, at that time, there were few who paid heed to this fact. They simply thought that a genius was different because they were a genius. Recalling the approaching sight of the Empire's Knight Legion that filled the horizon was enough to make one sick even now. Then I should do it too. Even if it's only within the territory controlled by our family, 9 years should be plenty for those with talent to become knights. That was why he was excessively investing in weapons and paying attention to the expansion of the regular soldiers. And to utilize them properly, standards had to be set from the beginning. How's the situation with the regular soldiers now? Out of the 502 who survived the last war, 402 excluding 100 have been dispatched on public order missions with General Vector at Teslan Castle. Are all the knights in MacLine? As per your directive to not separate the main knightly force? Logan barely suppressed a snort. Probably because of the knights who defected. Any excuse would have been pointless. The knights from Teslan numbered 32, not much different compared to the 41 surviving knights of MacLine. Even with the presence of an high-grade knight, or rather now a high-class knight like Patrick MacLine, it was impossible to let them operate separately. Well, that's probably for the better. There was no space in MacLine to accommodate the accommodations of more than 1,000 regular soldiers. It was also one of the reasons why there was a limit on the number of recruited soldiers. All the trainees to be recruited from MacLine Castle will head to Teslan. From now on, Teslan will serve as our base for military training. Leave only the top 50 senior soldiers in MacLine Castle. Notify all the soldiers. Pardon? We've got over 70 knights here. We don't need that many soldiers. It was a potential problem that could arise when the number of knights surpassed that of the soldiers. However, Father will keep the knights busy with continuous training. Just tell the remaining soldiers to work a little harder. The seniors have had it easy until now, haven't they? In MacLine Castle, the only source of pride was the stable public security. A decrease in soldiers was unlikely to pose an issue. As if in agreement with his thoughts, resonant voices echoed from the inner training ground. Your movement is wrong. Start over from the beginning. You son of a... Who's talking during training? Double the work. Wah! It remains to be seen whether this will cause problems for the knights. Listening to the voices, which were a mix of shouting and screaming, Logan couldn't help but smile faintly. Well, it's not a bad thing. Regressor of the Fallen Family, Chapter 55. Victor's Pledge. Pant, I'm sorry. Victor's breath was ragged, his words coming out in a hurried rush. No, it's okay. Try it again. Excuse me? I said, try it again. Yes, right away. Logan smiled faintly, picking up the sword rolling on the ground and handing it to him. He certainly has an incredible talent. It wasn't empty praise. Only 16 and merely a year of sword training? Was he fully accustomed to the most basic swordsmanship of Grandia Kingdom? Or did he naturally assume the basic stance even when swinging wildly? Even when his slashes deviated from formality, his stride was steady, his eyes fixed on an imaginary target. The basic swordsmanship has been perfectly ingrained. Moreover, the force he mustered when swinging aimlessly was much higher than when using formal techniques. It meant that such a temperament suited Victor well. The nature of a noble slayer may have changed, but his martial prowess remained fierce and aggressive. I can even discern the nature of his swordsmanship. It suggested he himself was transforming just as much as Victor. A slight smile of satisfaction trickled onto his face. The only problem was... Hop! Swoosh! Slice. Boom! Harsh and violent swordplay can never be perfected through solo practice. He'll need an opponent now. Not an overwhelmingly powerful being like himself, but someone on his level. That meant opponents just short of Force user level A-grade mercenaries or elite soldiers, sparring as real combat was necessary. Is it feeling cramped? Victor, who swung his sword with all his might, silently nodded his head. Ordinarily, he would have denied it and just continued to practice diligently. It must be because he feels it too, the future aura user. His talent once again left Logan in awe. And fortunately, the solution to Victor's frustration was straightforward. Tomorrow, I plan to leave MacLine Castle and train the soldiers in Teslan for the coming winter. Excuse me? Follow me. Make sure to tell your sister. But then... Can I not take Rhea with me? This fool of a brother blurted out something absurd. Take a girl to a training ground swarming with men? Is it impossible? You think that's really for her own good? I want to go together. He really was a difficult one to comprehend. Normally too mature, the moment his sister was involved, he turned into a child, wanting to bring his young sister to a place filled with men, especially testosterone-fueled teenagers. What kind of trouble is he looking to start? Wait a moment? A thought suddenly flashed through Logan's mind, and against his counter-judgment, he nodded. All right, let's bring her. Thank you so much. Watching Victor leap with joy, Logan swallowed a sigh inwardly. Ah, this kid. While Victoria's control over her brother was good, her attachment was far too intense. At this rate, he might just keep putting his sister first, no matter what I ask of him. This seemed like an opportunity to address his excessive attachment. If everything went as planned, it would certainly... But remember, if any problems arise, it's all on your head. You asked for this. Yes, I will take good care of it. That's not the point. Victoria has her own tasks to handle, so make sure to treat her work separately. If you're useless without your sister, you're of no use to me. I apologize. While his responses were prompt, Victor's eyes were flickering with unease. Victoria, come here! Since his arrival, Victoria, who had been anxiously watching from the side, came running over. I apologize. It's not my brother's fault, whatever it is. Please forgive him just this once. As the small girl bowed repeatedly with pale cheeks, Logan felt a headache coming on. No need for that. Though offered goodwill, their instinctual apprehension was the same as siblings. Maybe that's why he insists on taking his sister with him. Logan let out a bitter laugh, hiding his hollow feelings. Children who have endured hardships, having only each other to rely upon. One could hope they had found some comfort in the past year, but it still seemed too much to ask. We'll be heading to Teslon Castle for the winter. Your brother will be training with the soldiers, so accompany the maids responsible for food distribution. Understood? Yes. Her response was notably better than her brother's, after Rhea left to gather her belongings. Do you cherish your sister that much? Logan asked casually, driven by curiosity. In his past life, he had lived in regret, constantly apologizing to his family for his faults. He was continuously striving not to leave that regret behind, but the way Victor cared for his sister seemed different. She's my only family. Victor's answer was straightforward, perhaps disappointing for the complexity Logan had imagined. Was it simply the instinct from a blood relationship? Is that all? Logan prodded, and Victor hesitated before replying again. Because of me, our parents passed away. Logan was taken aback by the unexpected response. Because of me, Rhea lost her parents. I must protect her, my only remaining family. Victor bit his lip and bowed his head. Logan had no desire to see further. Instead, he looked away into the distance, not wanting to witness the shaken expression. I will do anything to atone for my sins. To protect my family, my sister, I will wager everything I have. No, I must. Could anyone else understand that tangled mix of affection and regrets as well as Logan himself? A question asked on a whim had revealed a bitter truth and renewed his resolve. All right. Be strong, both of us. Logan tapped the shoulder of another version of his younger self and could only offer a comforting gesture. With 50 soldiers and around 300 mercenaries escorting the 500 recruits now trainees, they began their journey towards Teslon, slow but steady. The tents and camping gear prepared by the mercenaries weren't of the highest quality, but for those who had never camped before, it was all novel and exciting. Logan personally served warm stew to the trainees, making eye contact with each one. I value ability regardless of status. Strive to be competent. If you prove your ability, I'll ensure you're knighted, no matter what your background or origins. Perhaps it was just a simple gesture or cheap food, but the naive recruits were easily moved by the slight show of kindness from their liege. Despite the fact that most wouldn't become knights, the word spreading of Victor being a former slave, less than a serf, spurred their motivation. Let's become knights. This resolve firmly embedded itself in the hearts of the trainees, the ones from MacLane's struggling farmlands, smaller and poorer compared to others. Those chosen as talented by Logan's new standards had an even fiercer determination. Absolutely. Thank you. We'll do our best. Whispers of resolution, small fists tightly clutched. Though even wooden bowls filled with stew seemed a burden to hold, their eyes were all equally fiery. Many of those eyes were on Victor, a sight that pleased Logan. This was one of the reasons he had insisted on bringing Victor. Perhaps the odds are even higher than I thought. In the face of another looming crisis, Logan couldn't help but smile as he felt the pillars supporting the future of his family strengthen. In Teslan Castle, opinions about Logan were polarized. Only half a year ago, he was known as the butcher of the former lord and his children, massacring numerous conscripted peasants. Yet he was also celebrated for distributing food during the lean season and causing crops to grow in the wastelands, the owner of a miracle. However, regardless of how people chose to accept him, their reactions were the same when they met Logan in person. They kept their distance. From the villages outside Teslan Castle to the interior parts twice the size of MacLine, no matter whom he met, all territory residents lowered their heads and skirted away at the sight of Logan and the fiery banner. Inside such an atmosphere and before the gates of the inner castle, Victor welcomed him with an attitude vastly different from what Logan remembered. "You've had a long journey, Your Grace. Would you like to dine first, or shall we report immediately?" With a 90-degree bow and those familiar slitted snake-like eyes darting around as always, but there wasn't even a hint of hostility. "Victor, you've changed quite a bit." So it was no wonder Logan's tone sounded incredulous. "Ha ha ha. It's natural for subordinates to serve their superiors, isn't it? And before? I was but following my lady's will. She owns my life. Ho, attempting to blame my mother, are you? If you harbor resentment, take my head. I won't complain." "Really? Truly?" Logan, not one to pass up on the offer, drew his sword, and despite Victor's resolved voice, sweat streamed down his brow, hands trembling conspicuously. But the usually cunning eyes were locked onto Logan, unflinching. "If this would spare my lady any blemish, please forget our past because of me." Watching his reaction, Logan chuckled and sheathed his sword. Even with lingering past animosity, Victor's loyalty to his stepmother was genuine. "Just keep serving that faithfully." Instead of a slice, Logan patted his shoulder and moved on. The middle-aged man almost staggered but brightened up immediately. "Careful there. Anyone else might think I really hit you hard. So sorry, I was just too tense. Tsk. If we eat with you like this, we might end up sick. Let's start with the reports." "Understood." Fortunately, Victor proved more capable than expected. "The financial situation is. The state of the residence is. And the paperwork for recruiting soldiers is all set." With Victor's active cooperation, they quickly wrapped up the Teslan trainee selection the next day. "Sigh. Only about 250 here look like they have any talent. Well, we need the crossbow cavalry for now, and..." The Empire had found a promising method for force awakening, but the exact mechanics had not been understood perfectly. Those seemingly lacking talent today might become force users tomorrow. Logan comforted himself with that thought and selected another 500 trainees in Teslan. 1,000 trainees in total. The barracks in Teslan fortuitously had enough space to accommodate nearly 1,500 men, including existing soldiers. Face to face with communal living for the first time, the trainees' unfamiliarity showed, along with their youth. Among those gathered, some adjusted well. "I'm Rom. Let's do well together. I'm Tess. Yes, let's help each other." Others did not. "Hey, what's that? Aren't you going to apologize? You were the one blocking the way. What did you say?"
Still, stop it!
Amidst the unfamiliar environment, the blood of the young wouldn't allow them to settle easily. "Quiet down, all of you. If you don't shut up and sleep, I'll make you sleep." Despite the efforts of the senior soldiers and instructors, the trainee barracks remained lively with those unable to sleep. The next day, as county morning bugle calls sounded, Trainees mustered on the parade ground, clumping together clumsily with half of them sporting bloodshot eyes. Observing such a pitiful state, head instructor Kai didn't even bother to correct the formation, but announced the first training exercise right from the platform. 5 laps around the inner wall. The last 100 finishers must run 2 extra laps. Taken aback by Kai's abrupt order, the disjointed trainees were visibly shocked. "Excuse me?
Run!
What is this sudden? Run, let's run!" As one began to sprint amidst confusion, the rest reflexively followed. Without considering that running 5 laps around the nearly 5-kilometer perimeter was near impossible for ordinary people, they blindly surged forward. By the time they had finished 1 lap in over an hour, staggering began. Pant, pant, hack, hack, huff. Stumbling worsened, eyes glazed over, and some fell apart. But among them, one stood out. A boy with blue hair and distinct red and blue odd eyes ran at the front, showing no signs of fatigue. "What's up with that guy?" The slave of the Lord's." As the distance grew, with others faltering, Victor's performance ignited the trainees. "If that slave can do it, I can do it too. I won't lose." Fire reignited in their eyes, and strength returned to their trembling legs. Despite future repercussions from such overexertion, the trainees followed Victor as if enchanted. The Victor effect. Just as young Lord Logan said. Kai, running alongside to supervise, smiled at the sight. Logan and Kai aimed not for physical toughness, but perseverance, not giving up. So the first exercise stopped at the 4th lap as soon as 100 dropped out or gave up. Those who gave up or collapsed get up and run 2 more laps. If you can't, just go home. Got it! Newly inspired trainees grew pallid. Others breathed sighs of relief. Huff, huff. "I made it. Don't make me talk. Cough, huff. Whoa. That monster." Amidst everyone hesitating, only one boy was casually stretching, loosening his muscles. Others also knew that it's better to stretch the body after intense exercise rather than resting immediately. However, even if they were aware of it, executing it right after pushing the limits in training was challenging. In other words, while this training that stimulated the limits may be burdensome for other trainees, it seemed effortless for Victor. And Logan observed this from the secluded administrative office, far from the training ground. His golden eyes gleamed as they scrutinized Victor's expression and physical condition from a distance. As a result, Logan could smile with satisfaction. "It's definitely seeping with power. It won't be long." If Victor awakens during training, all the soldiers present will become aware of one thing, that a slave can become a knight. And that realization will be more motivating than anything else for the soldiers. The status of a slave is enough to conceal Victor's genius, just as the approaching figure to Victor is showing.